football fans, and welcome to this week's edition of Will G's Football Talk Show. We have a great episode for you guys, so let's get right into it with last week's recap.
Ho, 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 ho! Santa Claus is here, huddle up!
The Bears, Bills, and Saints all walk out victorious on Turkey Day after they defeated the Lions, Cowboys, and the Falcons. The 49ers and the Ravens took it to the wire this past Sunday as Justin Tucker put one through the uprights as time expired, and the Ravens went on to beat the 49ers 20-17. The Bengals, Redskins, and Dolphins all won football games this weekend. Not once did I ever think I was going to be able to say that this weekend. They went on to defeat the Jets, Panthers, and Eagles. Minshew Mania has finally returned as the Jaguars went on to lose to the Buccaneers and Nick Foles was benched at halftime. So, Gardner Minshew's getting the go from here on out. The Texans dominate the Patriots Sunday night 28-22. The score doesn't really tell you how the game went. It was blowout. The Patriots couldn't get nothing going on the Texans. So, it's leaving people with questions like, are the Patriots going to be able to make a run this year? And you know, we ask ourselves that question every year, but they always seem to find a way. But the AFC is a lot tougher than it was last year, so I guess we'll see how things pan out. And the Seahawks take a lead in the NFC West after they defeated the Minnesota Vikings in a Monday night thriller. Seattle was up big late in the game, and Minnesota made a comeback for the ages, but Seattle squeaked their way out of that one. So now the Seahawks are on pace for a first-round bye. Some shocking news this week. Ron Rivera has been fired after 9 good seasons with the Carolina Panthers. He took them to a Super Bowl back in 2015, but I just think his time was up. Things haven't been going well for that organization, and probably the Redskins' loss put it over the edge. But, you know, Ron played with the Bears, coached for the Bears. I loved Ron. I loved him as a coach, and you know, he did good things in Carolina, so I'm sure he won't be jobless for long. But that's also raising questions in the NFL. Who's next to go? Personally, I think we all know who's next to go. Jason Garrett. And that'll wrap up this week's recap. Let's get into some fantasy talk. So you know how my fantasy talk goes. I'm going to give you my startums and my situms. First off, we're going to start off with DJ Moore versus Atlanta. DJ Moore is on fire, having 5 straight games with 17 fantasy points or more. And Atlanta has given up the 5th most fantasy points to wide receivers lined out wide. So you got to make sure Moore is in your starting lineup this week. Also, start Kirk Cousins versus Detroit. Kirk Cousins has put up 19 or more fantasy points in all of his games this year besides 2 games. And Detroit loves making quarterbacks look like all pros. So Kirk Cousins is an easy start for this week's matchup. And my situms for this week, Tevin Coleman versus New Orleans. He's a must sit this week because you don't know who's going to be getting the lead snaps in San Francisco. Mostert seems to be taking most of Coleman's snaps anyway. Also, New Orleans is 4th against running backs in points this year, so you got to make sure Devin Coleman is not in your lineup this week. Also, sit Terry McLaurin versus Green Bay. With Haskins starting, he's only averaging 8 fantasy points per game and 45 receiving yards. Plus, he's going to be going up against a very good cornerback in Jair Alexander, so that won't be an easy matchup for McLaurin. And that'll wrap up this week's fantasy football talk. Let's get into our injury report. Detroit's tight end TJ Hawkinson has been placed on IR, ending his season with a tough ankle injury that he's been battling all year long, and he re-aggravated against Chicago. So, Hawk, especially with the Lions being done this year, it's good to get him healthy for next year. Bears wide receiver Taylor Gabriel should not be going tonight with a concussion, and James Conner this week is supposed to be sidelined again with his shoulder injury that has been keeping him out a little longer than some expected. But on the positive note for you fantasy owners out there in the playoffs this week, Dalvin Cook and Julio Jones are supposed to be goes this week, so don't be worried because they're going to be going. And that'll wrap up this week's injury report. Stay healthy, boys. So now as we get along into my weekly bets, I want to apologize for how I did last week. I went 0-2, but you know, it's the name of the game. I'm not going to hit them every single week, but honestly, I kind of got screwed. The Jets completely just went out there and laid an egg. I mean, they screwed me against the Bengals. The Bengals were 0-11, and the Jets were supposed to be some good team this year, and they completely went out there and just played like garbage and got dominated by the Bengals. So I was like, what? Come on. I don't think a lot of us were expecting that. And 2, the freaking Ravens game where I had the over on that, they scored 31. of their points in the first half. And they only scored 6 total points in the second half. They finished with 37 points, 9 short of the over. I was thinking, I checked in at halftime. I said, oh, guarantee smash that over. 31 at half, that's an easy win right there. And then I checked back. I was like, are you serious? They better start scoring some points. And then 6 points in the second half, I got screwed. So I'm promising you better results this week. I had a very tough time picking this week because there were so many good games to choose from. And there's some backup quarterbacks making their way back in with Minshew. Eli's back this week. So I had a tough time picking some of these picks, but I'm very confident in these 2 bets going forward. So this week I got Denver to cover 9.5 points. Drew Lock is in there now, and I'm more confident in this Denver team going forward. Yes, I still do expect the Texans to win, but I think it's a fairly close game. In 8 of Houston's wins, only 2 of them have been by more than 1 score, and in 5 of Denver's losses, they've been 1-score games. So I expect that Denver defense to kind of control Deshaun Watson a little bit and keep it a good game, but I still expect the Texans team, which I think is the better team, to come out on top. And my second bet this week is I have Tennessee to win by 3 or more. Tennessee is one of the most underrated hot teams in the league right now, and I don't see the Raiders getting in there or stopping them this week. Derrick Henry is on a roll. Ryan Tannehill is on a roll. I believe they scored the second most points in the AFC since Ryan Tannehill took over, and they're not slowing down anytime soon. I have the Tennessee Titans to beat the Raiders by 3 or more this week, and I'm guaranteeing that one. So those were my betting picks. Let's get into my Will G's rapid fire predictions. Straight up picks. I went 8-8 last week. Not a great week, but like I said, the Bengals, the Redskins, and the Dolphins all won. So it's kind of a wild week last week. So those 8 wins put me at 100 wins on the season, and those 8 losses put me at 69 losses on the year. Lucas unfortunately did not hit his lock, as he is now 9-4 on the season. But me and Lucas, we're moving forward. We're going to have a great week this week. I know I'm hitting my bets, and I'm feeling good about my rapid fire predictions, so let's get into it. The Bears keep their playoff hopes alive to kick off week 14 as they defeat the Cowboys under the lights, 21-17. The Colts get back on track versus Jameis and the Bucks, and they go on to win 27-20. The Ravens remain the best team in the NFL, and they escape Bills Mafia this weekend as they go on to win 32-26. Captain Kirk commands his crew to an easy win over the Detroit Lions, 32-20. Rodgers' Lambeau leaps into another victory as they destroy Washington, 31-14. The Broncos head down to Houston and try and corral Watson, but they just can't hold on long enough. Texans, 24-17 in this week's Lucas Hoig Lock of the Week. The 49ers head down to the Big Easy while Breeze and the Saints hand them their second straight loss, 28-24. The Bengals get so close, but they cannot get their second straight win, and the Browns keep their playoff hopes alive as they go on to win 23-17. Their first game without Ron Rivera in 9 seasons does not go as planned as the Falcons go on to beat the Panthers 32-24. The Jets bounce back after an embarrassing loss to the Bengals last week and defeat the Dolphins 28-24. The Chargers head down to the Sunshine State where Minshew Mania reigns, and they escape Phillip Rivers and the Chargers, 20-17 Jaguars. The Chiefs head to Foxborough and get their AFC Championship revenge over the struggling Patriots, 28-21. The Titans remain one of the NFL's hottest teams as they run all over the Oakland Raiders, 28-17. A Super Bowl 43 rematch ends with similar results as the Steelers sneak by the Cardinals, 24-21. The Seahawks can't stop winning as they head to Hollywood and dominate the Rams, 34-24. And Monday night, Philly ruins Eli's return as a starter after the injured Daniel Jones went down last week, and the Philadelphia Eagles go on to win 31-24. And that'll wrap up this week's edition of Will G's Rapid Fire Predictions. And you know how it goes. I'll wrap up this week's Will G's Football Talk Show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and week out. Make sure you hit that like and that subscribe button to get more weekly NFL and Chicago Bears content. I truly appreciate every single one of you guys. And my Bears play tonight, so need a win to keep the season alive, boys. Bear down.